Hello humans, last week we released our new song Run, and if you haven't heard the song yet, here is what some of the people of the music industry have to say about it.
It is too hard, monotonic and has no vocals, but it's nice. The intro is too long but not that bad for sure. I feel the mix could have been better. I wasn't a fan of the drop tbh, it felt kinda empty to me. I still feel you'll find the right audience for it. All the best with it. Have a great day. I liked the sound design, the main melodies were really sweet, but the mixing could have been better.
Run.
So let's look into the project. So it's only this atmosphere, and you hear it in the very beginning of this song, and this atmosphere is building up to the drop, and it's kind of creating the whole tension of the intro in the background, and you don't notice it as much in the beginning, but then before it drops it becomes much louder and fills out the whole top end of the intro. And I created this in a quite unusual way. I have this polysynth, which is a Bitwig stock synth, and it does nothing fancy. It's going into a reverb, and it sounds like this. But what I did is I played this over my MacBook speakers, and I re-recorded it into the MacBook with the internal microphone, and then I just tweaked it live to make this sort of build up. And if you listen to the pad without the effects on it, you hear that it's in mono, because the intro mic is mono. You hear the noise. That's probably just a hiss from the microphone. Here it sounds very thin. Very, very, very ugly and not pretty at all. And there's a lot of automation going on in here. There's some volume changes, mixer volume. Then we have a reverb, an additional reverb that is on in the beginning. It's the RC48. You see crazy EQing. I talked about this filter reverb before. It's basically taking out the highs as you push it into the reverb, and it creates this effect of being very distant from something and then getting closer to it. That I have on the pad in the beginning to make it a little bit more lush and wide. I also automated the mix, I guess, because I wanted it to be much more sneaky and just creep inside of you. Then we have texture on it, texture that adds noise on top of your incoming signal. So we have this sound effects fairy deck. Okay, let's listen to it. It's noise.
Nice.
Yeah, and then there's this other reverb. Not as long, 1 second. I guess it's just the normal reverb when you open up the plugin, but what I did is I pushed up the high cut, so I wanted it to wash out the highs that are going on, so these harsh highs get phasey and not as aggressive as in the original recording from the MacBook microphone. And all this together builds up the atmosphere and the tension for the song to drop. This plays together with the chords for the intro. And the chords similarly build up, but not as much as the pad. The pad is doing all the work here. Here you see it's getting a little bit bigger. It's a basic saw. You see there's a volume automation, so the first hit always gets accented. LFO on the cutoff. We have this macro. So it's bringing in some noise, bringing in the mix of the OTT here. And you see in the effects we also have like a very small reverb that is bumping with the chords. That's what makes it a little bit wide. So there's no other widening on that. And yeah, here macro 1, you see before the drop everything gets a little bit bigger. And then there's the basic mixing EQ, and that's basically it. The chords together with the pad are building up more and more atmosphere over a very long time. I want it to be really, really vibey. Before the drop there are some other elements coming in to support what is already happening. We have this ARP, also a polysynth, very washed out with a delay on 16s. I think nothing fancy going on here really. It's basically the same chords just run through an ARP and a saw wave playing them with a lot of reverb on it. So you can do it. Then next up we have a cello. And this is going along with the pad. So it's a sustained note and it's just there to give the whole pad some texture. It's a little more stereo. Also creeping in. And here's some other strings that are weirdly processed with a rotary. So that's normally something you would put on a organ or a Wurlitzer. It's like a rotating speaker, normally in a cabinet, and you record it with the mic, and you can kind of simulate that with this Bitwig device. And then there's the pad 2, doing the same. I think it's the same patch as the original patch. Only thing what I did here is I put on a Bitwig grid device. In Bitwig you have this thing called grid. And grid is like a modular environment, just like, you know, these modules that some people have that are super expensive, and we don't have them because we're not rich as fuck. We have to do it in a digital way. And what this module that I built myself is doing is basically it's taking the input signal and chopping up the left and right channel to make a very fast like tremolo effect. But then these chops are not stable from the left and right, and so it creates this weird grainy effect. Let's put the reverb on it. This is the steady pad. And if I turn up the grain knob, you see that there are these chops appearing left and right. Yeah, I built it myself because most of the time if you use a granular thing, you can't really control it. That the timing of the grains is still nearly that of the track. And so here it has like this 32's rhythm to it, and then it kind of wiggles around this 32's rhythm. What also is important, we have this chord groove. So I decided to make a tom groove that is going with the pads and playing exactly the same. I'm playing notes that are in the chords, like I think it's the fundamental and the fifth, and it's alternating. And these toms kind of obscure the chords in the beginning, but as time progresses and the chords become more obvious, they kind of disappear in the sound. Now the chords come up, and you notice how when the sound of the chords gets bigger, you barely can hear the toms. And so we established the groove with the toms, and now the chords are really taking over and creating the feeling next to the pad. So we also creeped in the chords. I'm a creep, I'm a weirdo. Yeah, Leslie, saw bass. To give the last 4 bars some fundamental. It's also building up slowly. And it's quite sawy. It has quite some harmonics, and it's not just doing the sub, but they also kind of disappear in like the big sound wall of this. Overall intro. Hello humans, I just finished recording the whole tutorial, and I noticed that I've been talking for more than like 30 minutes, I think. I will break this into 2 parts, just like the Blue Pill tutorial. But hey, see you next week for the next parts. Already filmed today and it's done. So I just don't want you to get too crazy. Use your day for something else, huh? Listen to some cool music, learn something. Or read a book like this, but let's be honest, let's face it, video killed the author. Star. You get the reference.